Hello guys, welcome back to a video on the Stratus Forecast Weather Channel. In today's video we got a lot to get over. We have a lot to go over. We're going to start with, first we're going to go over the radar and satellites and stuff like that, and the watches, warnings, and advisories. And then we're going to get into the SBC outlooks, remember the Storm Prediction Center outlooks, and then we're going to get into the future radar. So we have a lot to cover in this video, so let's get into it right now. And what I mean by a lot to get into is we have a lot of things going on right now. We have a lot of things going on this upcoming weekend as far as a severe weather outbreak potential that will come with potentially the strongest area of low pressure seen in ages, since the 1970s anyways. So let's get into it. So right now we just have not much is going on in the picture, honestly. We have a lot of snow showers and widely scattered steadier snow bands setting up through parts of Alberta, Canada. It stretches all the way down through portions of the Winnipeg, Canada area, all the way down through Ontario, and back through portions of the Quebec area. We have a lot of stuff going on. So we just had a confirmed tornado happen down here near Orlando, and we'll go over that in just a second. So as I mentioned, we did have a confirmed tornado near Orlando. It was not an overly impressive tornado. It was recorded at 70 miles per hour near around the Orlando area. But we still have a special marine warning is in effect for portions of eastern, off the coastline of the Port St. Lucie, Florida area. This is just off the coastline of the eastern coast of Florida. But we do have some scattered thunderstorms happening out there. Some of these will be able to produce some water spouts, but it won't be anything that would basically affect areas of the land. This is how it's been looking through the last couple of hours. Nothing overly impressive. Just kind of moving its way over to the east, northeast, and kind of just spreading over the area, really. As we continue on with the rest of the United States, we have a lot of reports that have come through for portions of the southeast and the deep south. This includes hail reports, damage reports, some damaging winds out there. None of these are associated with thunderstorms, however. They are associated with, maybe they are, but gusty winds are a possibility as well. This area of low pressure has been causing all this. That's centered somewhere around the South Carolina area. This is going to be moving offshore, which means we won't have any more severe weather to deal with. But we did have a marker down here of 50 miles per hour, but that is continuing to move off. But we're going to start seeing some gusty winds howl out of the northwest, winds howl up through the upper plains, but that's really what's going on there. As far as cloud cover goes across the United States, we're dealing with mostly just the areas that are seeing the least amount of cloud cover are portions throughout the southern northeast, southern New England, all the back through the Midwest, portions of the deep south, and through Mexico as well. We just have some, and so a lot of this cloud cover you're seeing down here, I think might actually be some wildfire smoke. Here's your area of low pressure moving off the east. This is going to continue to move off the east throughout the next couple of hours. But yeah, that's really what we're looking at right now. Next, we get into the severe weather potential. So we do have a few severe weather outlooks, not just a few, but several actually. So today's outlook is pretty low end severe weather threat. We're just dealing with a marginal risk of severe weather that has been issued for portions of southeastern Florida and southern Florida. This will include the potential for some tornadoes and your damaging winds. Again, most of this is anything below the really around the Orlando area on southward. So this is the outlook for Wednesday and Thursday, where things are going to start ramping up. So we have a marginal risk of severe weather that is in place with portions of northeastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Arkansas, and northwestern portions of Louisiana. Again, your marginal risk of severe weather is basically a very low-end threat. Depending on how the specifics come in, or the amount of instability, or things like the wind shear available with this could be easily amped up to potentially a slight risk of severe weather. I'm not saying it's going to, but there's definitely a possibility. But as of right now, it is a marginal risk of severe weather, which is your 5% risk of severe weather. As we continue on, things get way more interesting as we go into this upcoming weekend, Friday into Saturday, as I mentioned. We do have a slight risk of severe that has already been in place for portions of eastern portions of Iowa, pretty much the entire state of Illinois. This mostly is for Indiana, except the northeast corner, and portions of southwestern portions of Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwestern portions of Alabama, and pretty much the entire state of Mississippi. Only areas we'll still see severe weather, we just don't know the specifics right now, are northwestern portions of Mississippi, southeastern portions of Mississippi that are not in the slight risk of severe weather. So slight risk of severe weather has also been extended in portions of Louisiana and northeastern Texas, as well as the eastern corner of Oklahoma. There's an enhanced risk of severe weather that has been extended into portions of southeastern portions of Missouri, southwestern portions of, what state is this? Illinois, far western portions of Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwestern portions of Mississippi, and then pretty much the entire state of Arkansas in the areas that won't be seeing this enhanced risk unless if they do adjust it, which is very likely at this time. Portions of western Arkansas and southwestern and southern portions of Arkansas would not be in an enhanced risk of severe weather as it goes now. This does continue through Saturday into Sunday before this thing moves off to the north and east. There's a large-scaled slight risk of severe weather that has been extended all the way back to portions of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Maine. You can't really see it, but it does have a sliver of extreme southeastern portions of Indiana, a sliver of Ohio, and I don't think it has anything to do with Kentucky or West Virginia, but it is a possibility. Far portions of western Virginia, pretty much the entire central part of Tennessee, only areas that would not be in this issued area of severe weather as far as being a slight risk of severe weather would be portions of far western Tennessee and far northeastern Tennessee. Far southwestern North Carolina is involved. You can't really see it, but I do think a far sliver portion of South Carolina is involved. The northwestern half of Georgia, pretty much the entire state of both Mississippi and Alabama, only areas that won't be in this slight risk of severe weather as of now will be northwestern portions of Mississippi and northwestern portions of, well, I shouldn't say that, but far southeastern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and the entire state of Florida. But northwestern Florida has been issued into the severe weather threat. The slight risk of severe weather also extends all the way back to portions of Louisiana. Areas that are not in this concern are western Louisiana and extreme southeastern portions of Louisiana right around the Gulf Coast. Then we do have an enhanced risk. This is basically a bullseye of severe weather, I guess you could call it, through the central of Mississippi and Alabama. Sorry, not Mississippi, but yeah, Mississippi and Alabama. And there's a small sliver of extreme eastern portions of Louisiana. So now that we've gone over the severe weather threat and the things that are going on right now as far as the severe weather potentials down in Florida, in that one confirmed tornado, and the snowfall accumulation that's happening in portions of Canada, we're going to get into the specifics now. So here's what we could be looking at as far as the GFS model goes. So notice, the GFS model is kind of not on the same track as the European model with this next upcoming storm, this weekend storm. But I do think the European model has a better handle of it, but also I don't do it at the same time. So let's get into it. So obviously, just get right into it. So obviously, also one other thing to mention, California will be getting some beneficial rainfall out of this atmospheric river setting up. We'll talk about it in a minute, but this area of low pressure that's continuing to produce some severe weather in portions of southern Florida is going to exit that region throughout the overnight hours tonight, and it should be out of here by at least midday tomorrow. This area of snow will kind of, this little Alberta clipper is moving through the Canada region. This will hover over Maine with maybe a little bit of a squall line, but it's going to be too warm out there. Anything north of the mountain regions across the interior northeast New England, that it's probably going to be all rain. That's the unfortunate part of this, but that's just how it is right now. Then you can see the ridge building. You can see all this warm air building, and the low pressures are really going to take a handle of that and kind of just go away with it, I guess. Well, we might have a little bit of a little tight system, sneaky system, pull through portions of the Great Lakes region that comes out of pretty much nowhere on Wednesday, that pulls through the interior northeast New England with maybe a little bit of light to moderate snow and potentially some mixing rain precipitation. But then we get a little lull in the action. And you know what a lull in the action means? Oh no, we're going to have a big storm popping up. And yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what's going to happen right now. That's just the way it is in the weather world as far as these days go. So again, we're going to see some area of low pressure kind of develop somewhere in the portions of Colorado area, kind of around the Nebraska area in those Rockies. This area of low pressure will then rapidly strengthen, and I mean rapidly strengthen. We're already down to a 973 millibar low around Friday, and this could definitely crack records, no doubt about it. Large, a big swath of snow on the backside, and then this low is starting to develop. I'm going to go into slow motion here. So the GFS model is insistent of another area, kind of area of low pressure developing down here near the Louisiana area and kind of forming another area of severe weather. We'll just have to see how that plays out. We'll see if the European model goes along with it. But for now, it looks like severe weather would be possible in portions of eastern Iowa, which I don't even know if that's going to be a thing due to the fact that the cold air is so close to the warm air that I don't know if that would play out correctly, but it's definitely possible. But you'll see what I mean. This continues on through. And then as it kind of stations out here, this could be a major sleet maker. Look at this. Through Saturday, a lot of sleet could be falling in portions of basically the upper plains all the way back down to the Midwest. And then you're going to see another area of low pressure kind of develop behind this area of low pressure. It's going to kind of just develop out of thin air. You can see it right there. Then this could bring some severe weather. I just don't know if this is going to be the way it plays out. As it continues on, it's going to then ride up the eastern seaboard, and there will be some gusty winds in this, and I would not even rule out the potential for some damaging winds, just due to the fact that this is some pretty tight pressure gradients given the area of low pressure. Not with this is kind of a 90-4, 90-2. It kind of increases strength as it goes up there. But you can't really see it here, but if we go back another notch, you can kind of see there's an area of low pressure here, kind of broad area of low pressure, but this will kind of swing through and out of here. That's the GFS model's perspective on this storm. Let's go with the European model now. So here's the European model. I don't really know the exact answer to this right now. I don't know if we're going to see two individual areas of pressure develop, or we're just going to see one just drive the entire severe weather threat. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's a possibility of both as of right now. So again, I think we'll see a very significant area of low pressure develop, somewhere around the Colorado area, somewhere around the Kansas area, between that area and Nebraska. We'll see a potential, as this continues through, it's not really showing much of snow, and that's the thing you have to notice. The European model does tend to underdo precipitation, so we're likely seeing a blizzard-like scenario happening on the western side of this, where the cold air and the winds are, and where the tight pressure gradients are, all the way back up to the upper plains, all the way back through almost the southern plains, if anything. Here we see our severe weather starting to develop. It kind of just starts out of nowhere, and then Friday afternoon things start to fire off. A severe weather potential all the way back to portions of southern Arkansas, all the way up towards the Midwest is a possibility. A pretty big severe weather threat, if you ask me. Then this continues, so we'll likely see, I don't know if this is how this is going to be playable. We'll kind of have a marginal risk, kind of a large slight risk of severe weather area, and then we'll have a decent sized enhanced risk. At this point, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it does look like it's more of a squall line than it is anything, but it does look like there's some clusters of thunderstorms in here. That's no question about it. It's just dependent on if this is how it's actually going to play out. As it continues on, it does want to create another area of low pressure kind of down in the Louisiana and Mississippi area, but the severe weather would be kind of confined to probably about the southern Minnesota area all the way back to portions of Louisiana. But that's how things, and it does want to develop another area of low pressure kind of down in the southeast states, and then this would likely bring a widely scattered kind of rain showery thunderstorm event to the northeast and mid-Atlantic, with maybe a little bit of a squall line and potentially maybe some gusty winds. But with the European model, what I'm not seeing is damaging winds, and then that pulls through. And then maybe some snow on the backside. I don't know if that's how it's going to play, but it's definitely a possibility with this one, and then we can continue on from there. So since we can't go very far into the future with the short-range models, we can go with some basics as far as the convective available potential energy. Let's go through. There's going to be a little bit of severe weather threat, as I mentioned, through Wednesday. I don't know if they're going to upgrade this or not, but it does look like a decent 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. And then it kind of fizzles out, and then on Friday things really get going. And look at this. The models have come a little bit farther down with this system, but we'll see how things go. And then that continues like that. So it doesn't look like a very overly large-scale severe weather threat, but it definitely looks like there's a possibility of it. But the one thing we can look at is the supercell composite as well for Tuesday and Wednesday. It looks decent. I mean, it's still not great for the northeastern Texas area, and then boom, look at that. Kind of confined to the Mississippi River area through Friday into Saturday, and then it's out of here. So that's really that. So it's, again, nothing like very significant, as you can see. But it does look like there might be a little bit of severe weather potential maybe through the end of this month, with maybe a very intense area of severe weather. Alright, so as I mentioned, there's the storm potential again. It's still several days away. So we just went over the severe weather potential for that particular storm. Now I just want to kind of go deeper into the future and kind of see what we could be dealing with. So as we go beyond this storm, it does look like there's potential for kind of a very weak area of low pressure that develops somewhere around that kind of just trims off portions of this other area of low pressure, that develops for a bomb. It's almost a bomb cyclone-ish look to it through the Pacific Northwest. This kind of just chips off and kind of very easily fizzles out quickly, and it kind of just goes through there with maybe some widely scattered snow showers around Tuesday of next week. Then another stronger area of low pressure develops through Thursday, with a very strong area of low pressure, kind of a squalling leading on down. As we continue, that could be a kind of a open wave area of precipitation. However, it could be more of snow than rain, given this kind of interior northeast New England, maybe a little bit of light snow, but it doesn't look like overly intense. As we continue on, that's what the Earth model predicts. Nothing very significant happening after that. I mean, maybe some random severe other portions of the southern plains, but other than that, I'm not seeing much. Here's the GFS model. Again, we're going to get through that storm first. So here's the GFS model, so we're going beyond this storm. So again, it does want to put in a kind of similar pattern. For the 19th, we're looking at a pretty decent area of low pressure, kind of forming a little bit of a winter storm at most. And then that pushes off, and you kind of see that cold air just kind of pushing it offshore with a strong area of low pressure like that. And then this is what you don't like to see in the middle of March. If you're not a person for snow, this is kind of scenario you do not want to watch for. So again, we're seeing Alberta Clipper moving through, but then we get the severe weather potential, but that's not what I'm talking about. As we continue through, look at this. We get an area of pressure kind of develops like this, and then it almost wants to go up there, and when it collides with cool air, you can already see it kind of doing that, and it's trying to put snow in portions of New York. And the area of low pressure is over here. This is not what you want to see this time of year. This is indication of another winter storm with a similar pattern that we've seen the model do time and time again this entire season. And then that pushes offshore, and then another stronger area of pressure kind of develops, and this kind of tells me like this is going to be a very kind of one of those storms where you see a lot of wind and a lot of rain around the very end of this around the very end of this month. Kind of a strong area of pressure kind of developing and pushing wind and rain up the eastern seaboard. That's not what you want to see this time of year, if you don't like power outages either. So I will go beyond, obviously I'm going to get into precipitation, like how much snow or rainfall you're going to see. However, I want to get into the warmth, because it's going to get very warm in a very short amount of time. So again, this week will be very mild across pretty much the entire United States. Again, today we are very mild. The only areas that aren't seeing really mild air are literally confined to the northeast. That's the only area, and it's interior northeast New England. But as we continue on, this cold air layer is going to get chipped away very fast, and this warm air is just going to flip like a switch. Look at that. Through Monday afternoon, here we go. It's kind of, I would call this a heat wave at this point. Well, not a heat wave, but a mild wave, as I mentioned before. But as we continue on, this is when you get more into the question, oh, we're talking about a heat wave now. Yeah. So as we continue on, the cold air is trying to fight back, but it's just not going to be able to. As we continue on, look at this. Through Tuesday, tomorrow, we get into the Northeast has been the area that's been very cold this entire season, and it's not going to be that way for long. We're going to get this area over which kind of develops on the Friday area, and then boom, look at that. And then it pushes that warm air all the way up the eastern seaboard. We see 40s, 50s, and potentially even 60s rate in southern New England. As that continues, cold air will push behind, but not for long before we get another wave of mild air just rush up the eastern seaboard through next week with a lot of mild air. And then that's basically the pattern. We're going to see these big ridges build, and it's going to just boom right up the eastern seaboard or anywhere in the United States, and just push in an immense amount of warm air right into the gut of the cold air and just push the cold air right out of here. But then during the night, you're going to see that kind of pattern where the cold air does come in, but it's not going to be as strong as the warmth, and you're not going to get severely cold. And then the next day, you're going to see the same sort of scenario where we get this pattern where I call it a roller coaster, because that's basically what we're seeing right now. So we're seeing cold air at night and then extreme warmth in the daytime. And if you ask me, this is definitely well above average temperatures for the month of March. We should not be in the 50s for March. We should be around the 30s to near 40 mark in the March time frame, for especially the Northeast. But this is just not normal. But we've seen this for the last couple of years, so this is not a new surprise to me at all. So again, that might be the GFS model. What about the European model? Does the European model have a colder solution? Does the European model have a colder side to things? Or does it go warmer? That's the question now. So as we continue on, the warm air will build and we'll get some mild days. The European model is already pushing for 50 degrees in portions of Maine, which is crazy this time of year. And then it's trying to push more warm air, but Friday is when things get interesting. So we get this big area of low pressure kind of develops around the Kansas area, and then pushes this warm air right up the eastern seaboard. And just watch this huge column of warm air just go right up the eastern seaboard and push you right into the 50s, and if not 60s in southern New England. And this is going to show potential 70s, at least the mid-Atlantic. And then as we go through, we get the cold air, as I was talking about, that same pattern. You get the cold air at night and then the immense amount of warmth at the daytime, and we get this same old pattern over and over and over again. The same old pattern over and over again. Here's the snowfall accumulation as far as the European model goes throughout the next couple of weeks. Not a whole lot, especially for the eastern seaboard. I mean, the Northeast is going to probably be the only area that gets a decent amount of snowfall to this. I mean, you're talking maybe a dusting to as much as 7 inches the farther you go inland. But again, most of the snowfall is going to be confined to areas of the Pacific Northwest, the western half of the country, the upper plains, Midwest, and vast of the interior Northeast of New England. Here's the GFS model. We'll see what the GFS model wants to do. So the GFS model is trying to put snow all the way down here. There's no way you're getting 13 inches of snow in the middle of March all the way down in Tennessee. That's just not how it's going to go. That's just not how it's working. That's just not how it's going to work. It's a possibility, but it's very rare. But again, much more snowfall, but also you're noticing in areas across the Northeast, you're not dealing with a sharp cutoff in southern Maine. You're just dealing with kind of overly scattered snow. So again, this kind of shows a snowier picture. Is it going to be right? Probably not, due to the fact that we're seeing multiple days of warm air. We're seeing multiple waves of warm air. Western half of the country just getting, not drenched, but just getting so much snowfall out of this. So again, the snowfall is confined to the interior west, the interior upper plains, the interior Great Lakes region, the interior northeast New England, and for some reason the GFS model is trying to push snow all the way down into portions of Alabama. There's just no way right now. It's just not going to happen. But again, if that ever does happen, we might even break more records. We've already broken enough this year, so why not some more? And we'll take a look at the freezing rain accumulation. I'm sure it could be a little bit extensive across portions of the upper plains with this new area of low pressure kind of developing through the Friday time frame of this week. We could see a pretty decent amount of freezing rain out of this, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, just look at that. Wow. I don't know about as much as over an inch of ice, but this is over an extended period of time. So we're not just going to see a whole ton of ice accumulation. It's not just going to freezing rain for a solid month. I mean, it's possible, but it's not likely. But again, upper plains, as I mentioned, probably getting some freezing rain out of this. But again, the only areas that are really seeing an immense amount of freezing rain or any freezing rain at all are basically confined to the interior, as I mentioned before. Anything north of central Iowa through the upper plains, maybe as far south as the New England area, in northeast, maybe southern New England possibly. But then you get freezing rain. You can see these kind of specks on this map. These are just kind of areas that are possible for freezing rain. Not a whole lot of freezing rain, but it's kind of widely isolated and scattered at the same time. But that's that. As I mentioned before, this is going to be a very strong area of low pressure. What does that take? What does that mean? You get strong winds. So we're going to go straight through the time of Thursday when this area of pressure kind of starts to develop. And then it's going to rapidly intensify within the time frame of probably 12 hours, or less than that probably, maybe 10 hours. It's going to rapidly increase from an area of pressure that's down to a 987 all the way down to a 979. We get strong winds down in northwestern Texas, which this does not help with the fire situation down there. They're seeing a lot of wildfires. This is just not going to help with that situation that much. but we're seeing strong winds come out of the northwest. This is mostly due to a high pressure and low pressure being close to each other, but it's also due to a strong area of low pressure. As it continues to move through, we're likely going to see some blizzard conditions. And again, you don't need snow for a blizzard condition. What you need is blowing snow. And as this continues, it's going to develop another area of low pressure, then our focus comes through the eastern seaboard, where we could see a gusty wind parade come right up the eastern seaboard, and we can see some fairly damaging winds out there as well. As we move into the northeast, is the kind of area that you kind of look for these damaging winds at this time of this kind of event. So it looks like some pretty gusty winds out there. Remember, that's a sustained wind. Let's take a look at the wind gusts. So you thought the sustained winds were impressive. Let's just take a look at the wind gusts. So we go straight through the afternoon hour. Boom, just like that. 55 plus miles per hour in portions of northeast, northwestern Texas. And I do believe the strong winds will get all the way up into the upper plains as we continue on. Brings those strong winds in the back behind that. And as we continue to move through the northeast, look at this. The winds, you're starting to take that wind off the water and strengthening area of pressure, kind of dragging those winds up down the eastern seaboard. Boom, you get strong winds out of that. Anywhere from 40 to 60 miles per hour up and down the eastern seaboard. And then it moves out to the northeast. We see widely scattered or widespread strong wind gusts, potentially even damaging. Most of these will probably be 40 to 50 miles per hour, but there's a chance you get some locally higher wind gusts. And then that moves through. That's one model. Let's take a look at the GFS model. So again, Friday, kind of on the same page. As we go through Friday afternoon, these winds start to rapidly increase. The one thing I'm noticing with the GFS and the European model is the European model is a little bit farther to the north, and the GFS model is a little bit farther to the south. Or I might be wrong. But as we continue, these winds do start increasing, and then we get another area of pressure kind of developed down near the Mississippi area, as you can see. And then that kind of takes its way, kind of broad area of low pressure, kind of drags its way up through the northeast, and kind of gusty winds behind that. And then kind of boom, just like that, you get some very gusty winds out there. Potentially as high as 50 miles per hour, if not higher. And then that pulls through, and then boom, it's just like that, it's gone. So again, we're not going to get into any severe weather specifics until we get close enough. We're going to need the A-triple model for that. We can also take a look at other models. We'll make a separate video, probably tomorrow or the upcoming next day, that will talk about the severe weather threat for this and kind of look at what we can see for models and see what we can see for the amount of instability or stuff like that, such as the available energy and stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to like the video and subscribe. But yeah, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.